Hey there, welcome to episode 58 of the Cafe Genius Impresario's audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo. I'm recording this in the middle of the day on Friday, April 5th, 2024. The topic for today, the title, in fact, Resources for Startups in a Center, perhaps. Become a local, they say. Move your business and your employees or start your startup here in the greater Vegas area, rivaling the San Francisco Bay Area as an innovation hub, the home of Hollywood 2.0, and the very heart of the globe's best and most favored fun economy. That's the message, sort of. But let's think about that for a moment. But first, before we do that, the links, wherever you found this audio program, hopefully there is an episode description which contains the show notes. It mentions me as the host, the summary, which I just read. I write that myself. And some links to go along with the show. As usual, the first ones, these are always subject to change around, by the way. I can always edit them after the fact, long after, which I will be doing, which I'll get into in a moment. As the host, and if you're ever a guest on this program or any of my programs, I will include these for you as well. My host, Buy Me a Coffee profile page, buymeacoffee.com/danhugo, is where I keep links to my various projects so that they can be found outside of my own projects. That is, I don't need to maintain a blog or a link tree, link in bio. So it's a convenient place. It's a profile. It's not just a collection of links. I can add some text and so on. As well, if you are inclined to support these projects, which are coffee powered, do feel free to do so. However, there is no obligation to buy anything. You don't have to spend any money. It's mostly a promotion page of various projects. My 4 weekly audio program productions, this program, Let's Innovate for Vegas, Quaggling Sand, and FFS Talk, and some other projects, GitHub links, and so on. So there you go. buymeacoffee.com/danhugo. No obligation, but do feel free. I even have some links to my favorite coffee beans, lest you be curious where any monies would go. It's not, I'm not paying any mortgages, but a couple people have thrown some coffee money in the jar. So thank you for that in the past. So as well, my coffeeko-fi.com/danhugo account, similar goal, no obligation to spend any money, but get that out of the way. And now I only have 2 links today, and they're both really the same thing. One is there's a simple search page for patents and trademarks at the USPTO, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, which is a .gov destination. One is a simple page. They don't easily, I didn't really experiment with this too much, but they don't easily allow URL encoded GET parameters for form submissions. So if you visit the first link, basically search. It's a top level search of trademarks. You can search by words or other references. So I've included the serial number of this. I think they call it a case number in the next URL. So it's a pending trademark application, which is almost done. It will be 2 years since they filed it come August 2024. So serial number 973-674-59. If you type that in, you will find the status of, and then the second link is a detailed link. It will give you much more detail on the process, the status, if you search for what exactly the disposition of the application is, you will find more information. The review, there are several steps that go into a trademark application and the current status. I'll leave that to you to read. It's kind of interesting. But both of these links, so the latter does have the serial number encoded. You can see it right there, case number 973-674-59. 59. These are for the fun economy. If you are curious at all about the trademark status of the fun economy, which is the most important thing in the greater Vegas area, don't let anyone fool you. And I happen to agree. even though I'm not a big fan of Beau Bernard at the, I think he's like he's some executive, top level, top person at the Office of Economic Development at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. So he is a big giant fan of the fun economy, as everyone should be. It does bring in lots and lots of money. There are some other things, but don't ever wonder, is gambling going away? Have they given up on gaming? Did the pandemic scare it? No. Fun economy is here to stay. So my editorial to kick off this episode. We've covered this in previous episodes. The desires, the hopes, the belief that the greater Vegas area will be the next Silicon Valley. Having spent about 15 years in Silicon Valley myself during the dot-com boom between 1993 and 2005. Was it 2005? No, 2001. I returned in 2005. So between 1993 and 2001, you had the dot-com boom. You had the 1993, things really started getting crazy, and all through the late 90s, absolute insanity. 2001, of course, the attacks on the World Trade Center, not only already in decline, Silicon Valley sort of got the final blow. I had already moved to Arizona, getting away from the Silicon Valley chaos, and it became clear that the everyone needs to work on tech, no matter who or where you are. We want to pay you money. That kind of went away. So, but I did my time at Silicon Valley. I even went back in 2005 until 2013. So I spent a lot of years, and then I worked for Intel from Las Vegas, remote employee traveling the world. So about 15 years of Silicon Valley time, not contiguous. Las Vegas, Greater Vegas, Southern Nevada will not be Silicon Valley, and that's a good thing. You don't want to be a better Vegas. Silicon Valley is not something to emulate on the whole. It was sort of it's sort of like emulating an explosion. At first, it's kind of, ooh, look at that, how cool, and then, oh, now there's kind of a mess. So Silicon Valley is not something to be emulated, though the culture of innovation would be nice. One thing I will give Silicon Valley, it drew people in who were inventive, creative, innovative, sometimes collaborative. Oftentimes the nerd set, the engineers, the people in the cubicles like to be in the cubicles. They like to work at night when no one's around, so they don't have to talk. They don't have to interact with other people. Code reviews, but so it is. So the culture of innovation, though, would be nice here in Vegas. There are pockets of innovation, don't get me wrong, but the culture of innovation is sort of a baseline where you just sort of expect creativity. You may even demand it, but it's no surprise when someone comes up with some innovative thing, solution, product, technology. Of course. Oh, they must be in Silicon Valley, right? So that culture of innovation is important. It's not something you sprinkle on top as though it were a dessert topping. It's something that emerges over time. And as I've mentioned before, Silicon Valley it got its sort of germination in around 1947-ish. After World War II, Professor Terman moved to Stanford. There was a general sort of like, okay, post-war invention period and so on. So Professor Terman, highly regarded radar engineer, moved to Silicon Valley, what would be Silicon Valley, started at Stanford, told Hewlett and Packard to keep going on that startup idea, convinced Shockley to move Shockley Semiconductors to what would be Silicon Valley, to be closer to his mom after he won the Nobel Prize for physics, inventing the transistor. That's a simplification. Read about it, Shockley. The traitorous 8, Fairchild Semiconductors, Intel, the actual Silicon Valley history is a kind of an organic, government money fueled, nice weather fueled endeavor. It's good stuff there. It's how Silicon Valley formed. Where it went next, not so great. I guess we all have iPhones, and the economy of surveillance. Thanks. So more likely, though, based on celebrity hype, we are to be the Hollywood 2.0 future. So Southern Nevada will be the new place to produce movies. Mark Wahlberg, Sony Pictures, Sony whatever, Sony Media, whatever it's called now. Other investment from other places. Clark County certainly on board. People in Summerlin, not quite as much for the $1.8 billion production facility that has been approved for construction, including Mark Wahlberg and others participating in that oversight. UNLV, I believe, is planning on having some production facilities at the Tech Park, the Harry S. Reid Tech Park, right down the street from the Harry S. Reid International Airport. This Harry Reid character is everywhere. The GOED, the Governor's Office of Economic Development, is also on board with this Hollywood 2.0 concept, which they will prove eventually by granting some incentives in the form of tax credits and other financial breaks for the people in the movie production industry, employees, and so on. So this is a future possibility, which actually has some momentum. In the meantime, the 5 pillars of the fun economy persist, and they should. I have to be clear. I'm against damaging the fun economy. I'm against doing something that might place the people who power the fun economy, people in the service industry, people in the gaming industry. Hospitality is an important thing. Not everything is a robot. The 5 pillars: gaming, tourism, conventions, professional sports now, which is separate from gaming, but it does include gambling, and entertainment. If you're going to come and see the Sphere and watch U2 or whoever's in the residency today as you're listening to this, that's entertainment for you. So there really is a shining star when viewed from space, floating over Las Vegas. It may be the Luxor light, but the fact is, Vegas has a lot of fun, an entire economy built around it, and that is okay. So let's get down to it. The last mile. If you're not familiar with the last mile in operations, logistics, even internet connectivity, it is the space between the central switching office, the big warehouse, between there and the final destination, which may be a residence or an office park or a retail center, some sort of a place where you must lose your economies of scale, right? Running one thick cable to the switching office is a lot easier than running one cable to each home in a residential area. So that last mile, and it may be a little bit longer than a mile, but that last mile is always the tricky part. And I believe it applies to the downtown project as it was. It bloomed. I like to say it bloomed, right? Blossomed. About 10 years ago, I happened to have just moved to the Las Vegas area when this thing called the Downtown Project was starting to see some light of day. It had actually gotten started before that. I was not around for that, obviously. I just moved here in 2013, August. But Downtown Podcast and the work in progress crowd and the whole nine was just kind of kicking off, not correlated in any way with my arrival. But something I heard from people when I would talk to them, it was fascinating to me. I had just moved here from Silicon Valley, after all. Like, oh, what is this? This is a hotbed of people starting things. And what I heard from people, directly from people who were actually bringing a startup here, either they had an idea and they brought it here, or they came here to form an idea and find co-founders and funding and all that. They were surprised. They were disappointed, perhaps. It varied. It wasn't necessarily positive that there was a lack of mentorship. There was no real direction. They were under the impression that there would be a bit more of a leg up, like bring your dream, start your startup here in the Downtown Project. It was kind of a hand-waved promise, but there was the notion that, oh, this is the place to come and get started with some help, except for that help part. And there was some drama, if you're familiar with Local Motors. The founder and CEO of that company had a lot to say about certain things. I've talked to him specifically in person myself at Maker Faire in New York many years ago. But in general, yeah, there was a sense that there there's a lot more some assembly required than some may have imagined, which is sort of interesting because entrepreneurialism is some assembly required. So the lack of mentorship is I think, well, there was just a lack of meeting of the minds, as they say. So I think, hey, we have an entire part of a city dedicated. City as a startup is a phrase you may hear. We have an entire part of the city dedicated to a kind of a startup platform. Here it is. Like, well, yeah, but I don't know what I'm doing. I have a dream, but I don't have the stuff to do while I'm awake. I'm not laughing at those people. Being an entrepreneur is not a snap of the fingers. If it were, everyone would do it. So for all the stories, the optimism, and the possibilities assured, actually arriving and getting that startup started up left a lot of gaps. How do I make the best use of my time? How do I get capital to actually get up and running? How do I find co-founders if I don't have one? How do I'm not a technical co-founder, but not a technical person. I need a technical co-founder. How do I find that person? I'm a technical founder. How do I find my marketing or my storytelling, whatever the makeup of a particular notion was. The Downtown Project was not all tech. So there were people that were starting restaurants. There were people that were pursuing that. The restaurant business is hard. It's not statistically much more successful than the tech startup game. But if you're going to start a restaurant in downtown Vegas, you would hope that you would get the foot traffic and so on, and many did. But there wasn't always instant success to be found there either. So not everyone was really ready to start and succeed. So there were some reckonings here and there, some convertible notes, some renaming of things as they became a part of the Downtown Project machinery instead of standalone startups and so on. This is fine. This is business. I started calling this the last mile back then. So, and I've mentioned this before. So you received the invitation, you heard the story, the pitch, you got excited. You and possibly your co-founders or your friends said, "Hey, let's move to Vegas and start our company, pursue our entrepreneurial dreams." That part's okay. And then as you arrive in Las Vegas, that last mile is like, oh, we have to find a place to live and we have to find a place to do our startup. Oh, we can get a space. We can get a table at WeWork, I guess. Oh, well, that's money. Okay, some things are free, some things are cheap, some things are not. We have to figure out, oh, now we need employees. I guess we can go to dinner on Wednesday. I guess there's a podcast. So there were pieces, there were Legos spread across the table, as I like to say. But you were kind of left to your own devices. That was the message I was receiving from actual people on the ground participating in the Downtown Project in these early days. So that's sort of a combination of what they told me and my impression of what I was seeing. This did not apply to everyone, but there were a lot of people who were, I will say, disappointed. They weren't like wandering around yelling at the sky, but they were hoping for a bit more of that leg up, as I mentioned. So when it comes to logistics, like I said, especially delivery of goods, the running of cables from the central switches, this is from my notes directly. So running cables from switches to the residents, anything that gives up economies of scale and gets down to the details becomes suddenly a new and different problem or set of problems. And in this case, largely unaccounted for in those details. Having a downtown at your disposal is an interesting idea. And other cities have done this. And the notion could be that, like, well, Silicon Valley was many cities kind of stuck together like a big giant Katamari. Like all kinds of resources and personalities and academic institutions and so on. So what if we could duplicate that in some way in the downtown Las Vegas area? And you can read about some of the intent was to form a coworkers as family, the startup community, which is always a loaded term. Community is often misused. The presumption being, oh, you're here, you must be a part of a community. And so some people, myself included, treat community in a sort of a descriptive, it's a descriptive term, right? People geographically proximal or with similar goals could be said to be in a particular community. Does that mean they automatically collaborate, cooperate, support each other, help move the people in the community towards those shared goals, try to improve the circumstances of the geographically proximal members of a community? Think neighborhood. It's not automatic. So you don't say, oh, I'm in a community. Ta-da, I'm done. So there was some presumption that the downtown community of people, the startup community, the people who were pursuing their entrepreneurial dreams and aspirations were not always receiving what they may have thought was community. So community is often misused. It's ascribed much more value. Probably the best example is the geographical. If you live in a neighborhood, you could be said you're in a community. There's a community center. There's community activities. You're in a community because of the fact that you live in a geographically bound area. Does that mean you are part of the community? Beyond that, maybe, maybe not. So you cannot assume that. It's not always a healthy assumption. It doesn't always get what you hope you will get from it. So there are a few things we can do today to avoid what I will call the problem. And I say problem because anything can always be done better. There are a few cases where one can step back and say, okay, it's perfect. We're done. It's ready. We need not spend another moment. So if we presume that there are things that could have been done better, we'll call those the problem, right? The last mile, if we are intent on convincing people to relocate to the greater Vegas area, is a thing we should take a serious look at. And who are these we characters? Is it me? Is it you? Is it people with the city of Las Vegas, city of North Las Vegas, city of Henderson, city of Boulder, Clark County? Is it people in the LVGEA, the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, those who are hoping to drive more economic dollars, revenue for the city, money moving around through the economy, the machinery that is powered by expenditure, by growth? That is not necessarily a startup focus. So even though there is this notion of a startup community and a tech scene, is that really what we have? Is that what we, quote unquote, we are trying to drive? Or is it more bringing companies to Vegas to employ people? There have been some successes in that area in North Las Vegas for manufacturing, creating tens or hundreds of jobs, which is wonderful. People with, say, the city of Las Vegas, perhaps LBGA, like I said, are excited by large businesses relocating their revenue streams and their big name presence, possibility of jobs, etc., to the area. Yet they are also proactively excited by and promoting the notion of a startup scene and an entrepreneurial ecosystem aimed squarely at the tech sector. Why? Because there are hopes and dreams that we will be the next, everybody, will be the next Silicon Valley, and all the bad that comes with that. And so when they were hiring the senior VP of entrepreneurial ecosystem development, I think it is, or whatever the job role is, some of the KPIs, some of the performance indicators, the goals that were stated in the job description included things like how many software engineers were relocated to the area or were hired or something like that. I can't remember. I'm not looking at the rec at the moment. Tired of talking about that one. But how many unicorns, how much funding? These are goals of a tech-focused entrepreneurial development effort. So is this the next Silicon Valley? If so, we better get on that. We better get more software engineers here. Even though Silicon Valley got its start with actual silicon, with actual chips, actual hardware, and innovation, and I've already done an episode on this specifically, that Utah and Phoenix, or the central Arizona area, are much closer to being a Silicon Valley because they actually, and especially Arizona, they have actual chip fabs there. They actually make silicon products there. They fabricate chips, silicon. So Nevada will never have a chip fab, certainly not on that scale. So the notion that we can simply hire a person to fill in some blanks and check some check boxes and become the next Silicon Valley is mistaken. So yeah, we're going to be the next Silicon Valley with an asterisk, as long as it's fun. And by the way, that is a valid take. If you get rid of the notion of being Silicon Valley based on its history, but if you focus your innovation on the fun economy, and you do so with things like Blackfire Innovation, which focuses on hospitality and gaming, that is much more realistic than a more fanciful notion. Except we cannot focus on being the next Silicon Valley. We should stop pretending, while at the same time avoid blocking those who do wish to pursue tech sector innovation. So that is to say, and I always say this about Silicon Valley, Silicon Valley has an entertainment component of their economy. They have gaming. There are actual card houses. You can actually gamble legally in Silicon Valley. They have tourism. Silicon Valley is a lovely place with Napa to the north and Gilroy to the south, if you like garlic festivals. The coast, there's surfing, there's the bay, there's Alcatraz, if you want to tour some history, et cetera, et cetera. There's a long list of things. So tourism, there are conventions, Moscone Center, et cetera. There are professional sports. The 49ers Stadium was located right down the street from Intel. You could see it very clearly from the CEO's desk. What's the other one? Tourism, gaming, entertainment, professional sports. There's all those things in Vegas. I'm sorry, in Silicon Valley. So why is Silicon Valley not going to be the next Vegas? Because their strengths are something else. Similarly, Las Vegas has those strengths, and those are actual strengths. Doesn't mean you can't have technology and innovation, medical, research. There's a lot of nuclear physicists around from the old days. There's the pursuit of nuclear medicine is possibly easier here in the greater Vegas area, thanks to nuclear test sites and so on. UAVs, Nevada was very early on the allowance, on the enabling of drone testing and unmanned. What's a UAV stand for now? Something autonomous vehicles. So self-driving cars, drones, etc. So Nevada was very early in that community of test sites for the FAA. It was one of the first 6. So Nevada has established itself as a platform for some innovation to take place. The innovation doesn't necessarily begin here, but it can move through the co-creation and implementation phases here in the greater Vegas area, because guess what? 40 million people, give or take, are visiting the area every year at this point, according to the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. And who better than them to keep track of that? So let's talk about expat centers and central access points. When I was, if anyone visits other countries, one might encounter an expatriate resource center under some similar name, with multi-language services, how to get used to your new culture, anything, could be anything. Welcome to the neighborhood. I myself visited one in Eindhoven. I was visiting Eindhoven. I used to work at Philips, which is Eindhoven, or was. Eindhoven was Philips, vice versa. Eindhoven, Holland, the Netherlands. I returned to Eindhoven, and I stayed in a hotel that used to be Philips Lighting. It was called the Intel, Inntel. Kind of fun to say, having worked at Intel. Quite literally down the street, like 2 blocks maybe. The expat center had a bar, had a bar in the basement for hanging out. Had multiple, and the Dutch already speak all of the languages. They had multiple language resources for assisting someone new to the area. I just moved to Eindhoven. What do I do? Well, Step right this way. Would you like a beer? Totally useful if you are trying to figure out, okay, I just got here. What next? Oh, here, let's get you going. They speak your language. They can help, right? Come to the Expat Center. We're here to help. Great. So if we were to look around the United States today, as I'm saying this, April 2024, there are startup cities, some trying to be the next Silicon Valley, others simply trying to be a place where innovation can happen. I favor the latter. So locality is focused on enabling and encouraging entrepreneurialism in the form of startups. They are also leaning towards tech in some cases, but not always. Sometimes they're emphasizing biotechnology, medical research. Maybe it's drones, maybe it's robotics, maybe it's so it's not the laptop tech crowd, right? Not starting the next unicorn, Google, Facebook, etc. It's actual manufacturing technologies, a lot of agricultural technology. So there's a broad, the entire world has a lot of innovation possibility. So not everything is tech unicorns. So if you visit these cities or you do some reading, I like to read. You can search around for startup cities, etc., and that will be another episode where I focus on this more. They encourage this entrepreneurialism in the form of startups usually, but you can have companies move to the area, relocate, or have a branch. Having worked at companies that have branch offices in different places, that can be a two-edged sword. But there's usually a single access point or a driver of this. So not unlike the Expat Center, a one-stop shop to get going, help with getting business licensing or filing paperwork or locating office space or who to talk to, where to go, who to meet, how to get started. That last mile. Here in Vegas, there is a tendency, just from my anecdotal survey of various people who were new to the area, considering moving to the area, so they come and visit. If they happen upon the right collection of people, I like to call it, lately I like to call it the 300. The people who are in the tech scene who will take the time to talk to you and point you towards things that they have heard are good. So almost universally, the first thing you'll hear is, "Oh, they told me to go talk to Jamie at Blackfire, and I should look for SBDC and Score." And they also mentioned, so they go from there. There's a whole list of individuals, probably about, maybe call it a dozen. Go to UNLV, the Blackfire facility at the tech park. Stop by IKEA and grab some meatballs while you're there. And you can talk to so-and-so at the city of Las Vegas, who I believe has now moved to the city of Henderson. Maybe attend a well-known event or two and meet people and rub elbows and exchange business cards and cement your belief that there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of people doing things, and there's a very happy, helpful, and supportive community here. The 300. So good luck. Good luck to those people. But what we do lack is this startup resource center. So where do you go? What's the entry point? What's the gateway to starting a company or even being entrepreneurial in the greater Vegas area? If the messaging is become a local, move your business here, and the next step, the last mile is good luck, then we are repeating some of the aspects of the downtown project effort that did not work for some people. Being entrepreneurial and being successful at being an entrepreneur are two not necessarily similar things. So I have taken to calling the last mile the first mile. It's all about messaging. So if the last mile complication could be turned into the first mile of a viable entrepreneurial journey, the value proposition moving to the greater Vegas area to begin that journey may be more believable. So you basically say, rather than move here, good luck, you say, move here, and when you get here,
start at the Startup Resource Center. Don't try to find individual people. Don't try to just show up at meetups. And so you can do those things. There's nothing wrong with that. But any programmer knows, or anyone going to a shopping mall looking at the map, what's the thing you find first to orient yourself? You're at the mall, you're looking at the map, and nowadays it's on a big giant screen. In the old days, it would just be a backlighted image of a floor plan. And what's the first thing you would look for? You are here. Oh, okay. Okay. Now I see that store is near me. Okay. So you need that starting point, that entry gateway. I have arrived in the greater Vegas area. I have a startup. What do I do first? Well, go to Blackfire. I don't know what that is. Is there even a space between black and fire? There is. So yes, being given great advice is not always great. So to that end, myself and two co-founders, one of them has completely disappeared. I don't even know if he still lives here. And the other, I don't know what that person is doing either, but I think they are still here in the greater Vegas area, but they've essentially disappeared. So that is totally normal in Vegas. We proposed a concept that I had broached at the Cafe Genius Roundtable early in 2023, between January and call it June. I described what I had experienced during the downtown project days, and I broached the topic there, but I actually have been talking about this. I went to Eindhoven about 8 years ago, I think it was 6, 7, 8 years ago, and experienced the expat center and likened it to what I've described already. My experience with the downtown project folks was from 10 years ago when I first moved here. So this is a notion that's been percolating for a while. The notion of a startup resource center, which I've been referring to as the SRC. And by the way, if you're a nerd, you know that your source directory is where you go to find your sources. So I had taken to calling it /Vegas/source SRC, to go along with /user/lib, which was the place from the downtown project days where people would go to discuss, to gather, to learn, to share, etc. So user lib and all of its resources from old had a place in the file system near the you could say /local/source. That would be even cooler. So the SRC, Startup Resource Center, was a notion that we had planned out. The concept was relatively straightforward. As a service to those entering the area, you are here, the uninitiated, a collection of services and resources, which we called the Startup in a Box. Some contacts and other in-person meetups, gatherings, presentations, sort of a welcome to the area, resources to announce the new startups, right? Suppose the greater Vegas area had a resource that would announce new startups, new business in town, and so on. There are possibilities of finding that information if you're lucky. It helps if you build a stadium when you get here, or you commit a crime. If you don't do those things, you might get a mention here or there, down at the bottom of a page somewhere. But what if there was an actual collection of resources that were focused on welcoming people here, introducing them, rather than sending people to go meet other people as a starting point? How about, why don't you fill in this information real quick? Hey, I'm here from parts unknown. I'm here from the Midwest. I'm here from Silicon Valley. I'm here from Austin. I'm starting a company. I bring this to the table as far as my personal experiences and so on. Sort of a mini bio for founder, co-founders. What is the startup? Something stealthy, or maybe something you can talk about. Some idea of who, what, why. Make that information generally available. That forms part of an asset map. What is here? What do we have? What's in this ecosystem? How can I be a part of it? What can I bring to it? What is here for me? Is there automatically a community because someone has written the word community somewhere? Probably not. But so that was the idea. Startup in a Box. And one of the ideas was to have a mixer each month. So people that are new to the area, people who are of a mentoring bent, people who want first contact with startups, which is, of course, appealing in some business models. So a focus on that rather than, and you're sure, go to First Friday, see the Arts District. Wonderful. But that is a place to be an observer and to get your toes in the water. And those are good things. An entrepreneur should be able to tell their story, meet new people. All those are fine things. But as far as an entrepreneurial support organization, entrepreneur support organization, ESO, which is a thing, what is available for entrepreneurs other than finger pointing? Like, go over there, talk to that person, go to that event. Good luck. I got to go. I got places to be. So the model, I believe, is inverted or backwards or broken, doesn't really have success baked into it. So get people up and running so they can run that first mile. How are we coming on that? Well, the initial response was very supportive. Most, if not all, of the people and the organizations that were interested and excited and expressed support and what's the next step? What can we do? How can we be a part of this? And I myself, either by myself or in tandem with my co-founders and others, we visited SBDC. They kind of failed. Yeah, not good. SCORE, and I found what SCORE stands for. Good luck trying to figure out what SCORE stands for, but it's the last two letters are retired executives. So it's people who have been there and done that are offering free advice. It's a service funded by the SBA, the Small Business Administration, as is SBDC. So neither of those is quite as shiny a star as they are presented or suggested or offered. But those people expressed some support and interest. There were individuals. There was the city of Las Vegas had some interest. We presented the notion, oh yeah, this is great. Let's talk, like, what do you need from us? So we gave them a proposal. Like, here's what we could get started with. This would be in collaboration with the city as part of the Become a Local, a separate organization. We were forming a 501c3 charity to oversee the organization, so there could be a donation path to support it. But the actual Startup Resource Center would be a 501c6, something I've been talking about for 10 years, a startup chamber of commerce. Las Vegas, the greater Vegas area, has chambers of commerce that are focused on ethnicity or region. So there's an urban chamber, there's an Asian chamber, there's, of course, the chamber, the Las Vegas Chamber of Commerce. So these are fine. These are business leagues. They are almost required, but by nature, 501c6, which is a nonprofit but not tax exempt organization. So in the model we proposed, there would be a tax exempt 501c3 as the sort of parent or driving organization, and then a 501c6 at arm's length, as they say, to actually conduct the lobbying, the advocacy, the engagement, the trainings, the resource presentations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So not unlike a chamber of commerce, except that it would be geared substantially towards startups. So startups don't always have ginormous membership fees to offer. So this would be the long tail, bringing in startups, enabling them to succeed, if that's possible, and receiving benefit through a charitable donation path or through city grants and so on. With the GOED, the Governor's Office of Economic Development, pushing Nevada as the most entrepreneurial state, this seemed like a no-brainer. Like, we should be able to put this together and make it go. A non-trivial component of the notion was a mentorship cadre, a entrepreneur in residence cohort, if you will. People who were in not only tech, not only individual service providers, which those are the people that tend to show up for things, solopreneurs, which is fine. I'm not against solopreneurs at all. But if you're trying to open a restaurant in the greater Vegas area, what do I need to know? Well, talking to Dan Hugo won't necessarily help you because he's never opened a restaurant in the greater Vegas area. If you have a question about food trucks, we can talk about that. But if you want to open a retail store, if you want to open a bar or a restaurant, there are people here who have done that and they've been wildly successful. And would they be willing to offer you a leg up, the one that you were promised 10 years ago? Or that, not promised, but that you were led to believe. And I don't say that to be mean. I say that as a point of consideration, matching expectations with offerings, so that when people get here, they are not disappointed or put off or ruined by their own hopes and dreams that could never be fulfilled because they were just getting started and offered a starting point without things that they were hoping they would receive. So yeah, it's a learning opportunity. We're not rehashing the past. We are learning from it. So yeah, why not enable people to succeed? That seems like a good idea. So what comes next? I have in previous episodes of this program mentioned the need for a downtown project retrospective. This is where we, rather than myself talking to people and getting their stories contemporaneously, so 10 years ago and after, so I like to say between 10 and 5 years ago. So between 2013, 2018-ish, the downtown project did its thing. It is what it is today. We need to examine some anecdotes from people who were there, or here, actually. And that's interesting because the ecosystem, the entrepreneurial ecosystem at the time, was in the same footprint, in the same geographical, physical, emotional area as the current, say, the Innovation District in downtown Las Vegas area. That is actually a little bit bigger, but the downtown project, which was allegedly shaped like a llama, was really more focused on real estate than innovation, but did enable entrepreneurialism in various directions. So there was the restaurant focus, there was the tech startup focus, there was the service industry or services industry. So MoveLine was one, help people move remotely. Interesting idea. So there were a lot of possibilities. There wasn't an overt focus on the tech sector so much, which I think is probably a win. So that one of the things we could learn by asking is whether a particular focus makes more sense, or if several focus areas with suitable mentorship, leadership, resource steering, if you will, that kind of thing. So we should be asking people who were there what worked and what didn't. So that's the Downtown Project Retrospective. Being a project with one person driving it, it is moving at about that speed. So it's not something I am hoping to capitalize on. So I cannot say I must release the retrospective to pay my bills. That's not going to happen. It's an essential component of the future, a successful future, but no one seems to understand the infamous words of George Santayana, which I will not repeat here because I repeat them all the time. And if you don't know that you should understand the past, I can't help you. I've also mentioned the need for a continuous introspection effort. That was a recent episode. So I've done audio program episodes of impresarios on these two topics specifically: Downtown Project Retrospective and continuous introspection. So we should always be able to assess what is working and what is not in our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem. If we only survey people every few years, you get what you get. The Greater Vegas area is known for transience. If there's any focus on remote work, the people may not even be here at the time of a survey, or the survey may be buried under the latest machinations, tearing down or constructing something on the Strip, convincing a professional sports team to move here, etc., etc., etc. So those are the things that get attention. You may not even, I didn't even know there was a survey. So if we have a continuous, always available place where you can indicate things that are improving or not improving, things that are needed or not needed, things that are working or not working, etc. So if we always have that door open, and if we can convince entrepreneurs to, or people in the startup biz, right? If you're a restaurant owner, I just opened a new bar. Here are things that would have made my life easier. And then a year later, if you want, or a month later, or a day later, say, here's how things have improved or not, etc. So the ability to always have, guess what? When do you check the weather? Every day? Do you even have to check it? Because the weather is always being captured, continuous weather introspection. It's always being presented in a useful way to anyone who needs it. Imagine that. I'm a big fan of the former, and I don't mean the group from the 60s, but the Weather Underground, the Wonderground, the Wonder Map. The Weather Underground was a continuously running weather station, personal weather station data capture service. So you could submit your current weather readings. So if you had a little weather station in your backyard or on your patio or whatever, you could capture that information, put it into the Weather Underground database, and they would generate weather maps and so on down to neighborhood level. So you could see wind blowing, wind direction, moisture. Like if you have microclimates, which are common, then you could see, yes, the national weather, is it NOAA? National Oceanographic and something. You could see the weather reports from the airport or from satellites and all this, but you could also see weather readings from someone down the street from you. So useful information. Why not? Why are we not capturing this data, making it part of the open data sets that the city is actually paying for? By the way, the origin story of the Code for Vegas organization, much later the Code for Vegas Foundation, and now today the Innovate for Vegas Foundation, of which I am the managing director, is in the formation of the open data sets that the city still maintains. And I've talked about this previously, and I will talk about it in the future if you want. So make this data open and available so that people can get a reading on what is working and what is not. Add that to an asset map, add that to some other indicators and some visualizations, and you suddenly start to see where we need to focus, what needs attention. And if, by the way, if during your continuous introspection efforts, you have visible feedback from those new to the area, considering moving to the area, considering starting a startup or some endeavor, thinking about moving their startup here from, hey, me and my team are not great with proper grammar, but we do want to move our startup to Vegas. How easy is it to find a place to live? Can we find a startup house? Is there so being able to find, and then later, hey, we did not find anything that we needed. We had to move back to Austin or whatever, right? So being able to connect successes and failures and making the failures into successes, what do you need to do to accomplish that? Doing that is the mark of a smart city, right? Smart city, you can monitor traffic, you can monitor air quality, you can monitor waste, water quality. You can do a lot of sensor data capture, but as is so often forgotten, the important part of a smart city is the people. And you can look at the Sidewalk Labs project in Toronto to see where that can go wrong. But if you actually enable people to provide structured feedback, structured status over time, and you actually react in useful ways to that information, then you can turn everything into a learning experience. Not only the people allegedly driving, but everyone who's a part of the ecosystem can get a feel for what's working and what isn't. Maybe they can be a part of fixing the things that are not working. Maybe they have really good ideas that are never heard, and so on. So continuous introspection effort will indeed be a part of the, it will figure into the My Meeting project, which is a Innovate for Vegas Foundation community information sharing project. Open data capture is an element of that. So if you're always able to ingest feedback, status, continuous introspection, capture it and store it as open data, and then make use of it for visualizations and actual analysis, well, you just read my diary. So that's one of the things we're working on. And then the retrospective should fit into that. So similar questions, what did work, what did not work. We can align those with what's happening today. We can apply our first lessons from history with clear and present focus on fun economy, Hollywood 2.0, and the attraction of larger established revenue-generating businesses to the greater Vegas area. This is the Locate Vegas initiative that I talked about in a previous episode. $2 million budgeted to engage 16-ish, 16 or maybe 17 or maybe 13 potential business relocations to the greater Vegas area for the sake of the economy. It seems rather obvious that the view from the top is not of invigoration of an entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem, not in the near term anyway. It is focused on big business, big money. It is focused on major movie production contracts. It's focused on the next professional sporting event to take place here. The Super Bowl was where they were rubbing elbows with these decision makers. Distraction. The fun economy is about distraction. That is something not necessarily considered a selling point for some. If you want to be entrepreneurial and innovative, focus may be the word of the day, but so be it. The fun economy is attractive if you are pursuing something in the fun economy space. If you want to develop visualization technologies, virtual reality, augmented reality. If you're working on AI to generate imagery, movies, those things are happening. I'm not making that up, of course, as you know. So being able to expose your new technologies, your new videos, your new headsets, your new earphones, your new mechanical devices, your new software experiences, anything you're working on where you would like to see what people's reaction to it would be, could be not necessarily developed in the greater Vegas area, but certainly could have a presence here such that some of those 40 million people wandering around looking for something to do at 3 o'clock in the morning or whenever might be interested, maybe not at 3 in the morning, but they may be interested in trying out, hey, you can go visit a timeshare and get waste your day, or step into this enclave of innovation and try out these headphones, put on this headset, put on this head-mounted display, try out this virtual reality experience, try out this software application. What do you think? Go from there. Co-creation. It's a thing, and it does work. If you have 40 million people visiting and they're here for fun, why not start by trying out some fun on them? I bet they'll be interested. So that's the deal. The Startup Resource Center notion is still alive. It's just not received a lot of attention, but that is sort of a gateway. And the Startup Chamber of Commerce, Startup Chamber notion has been around for a while. I've been talking about it for a long time. I first broached the idea of connecting the startup community with the visitor community, the visitors to Vegas, 10 years ago with is it Lawrence Thornton? I can never remember his name. It's Thornton. He was at the LVGEA. I really should have talked to the LVCVA, but I was new here. They said, that's a great idea. And I don't believe it's really happened. So part of the SRC resource, one of the resources would be a connection to people visiting the greater Vegas area for a trade show. And by the way, you can sort of identify some of those visitors if they're here for NAB or CES or SEMA or the Concrete Show or EDC, or, the list goes on, right? So you kind of have some idea with some inbound marketing intelligence. But in general, there are a lot of people who visit the greater Vegas area who might be interested to know that there's something to learn, something to experience that is not necessarily in the fun economy directly, but adjacent. And they may go home saying, oh, I tried out that app, or I tried out that headset, or I tried out that new food technology. Where do you want to try out robotic bartenders? Well, they should never exist. But if you want to try out a robotic bar, do it in Vegas. Why not? So becoming not necessarily an innovation hub, I prefer to say innovation destination, but a place where people could be empowered to pursue their entrepreneurial innovation aspirations. An innovative or an aspirational or nascent entrepreneur should feel welcome and enabled, but not necessarily sold a bill of goods, right? Be honest and transparent, but offer opportunities to build, like accept feedback, learn, iterate. But if, as is already happening here, companies perform their ideation and innovation somewhere else, they have an implementation, they bring it to Vegas. And you're seeing this with self-driving vehicles, for example. Technology developed somewhere, implementation brought to Vegas. How about those 40 million tourists giving it a try? Even if you get 0.1%, that's not bad. And they're already here. So something to think about. My final point, with a clear and present focus, like I said, on the fun economy, Hollywood 2.0, and the attraction of larger established revenue generating businesses. That's the Locate Vegas program. It may be up to us on the ground, the entrepreneurial types, to focus on entrepreneurialism, on the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem. The management, the people with the city and the LVGEA and so on, are focused on the big picture with big companies, big money. This is not to say that that's bad, but it is not to say that that is automatically encouraging and enabling entrepreneurial innovation. That may be up to us. And that is where I will leave today's episode, which has gone on and on and on. No, it's only been like an hour. And I truncate silences, so it'll be a little bit less than that. Thank you as always for listening. Don't forget, buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo to find out where my projects are. And as I roll out, hopefully, what is it? I want to own my primary publication point. So there is a cafegenius.org website. There's also an Innovate for Vegas. There's Quaggling Sand, and there's FFS Talk. So the point of origin for these audio programs and whatever else I'm working on really should be owned by me. You should own your own internet presence. I just did an episode of FFS Talk about exactly that. Own your brand. So rather than depending on Spotify or Google or Facebook or TikTok or whomever, your primary presence on the internet should be one that you own, your name attached to it. You set the rules. You decide what you want to publish, and you go from there. Use those other sites as vectors that point back to you. So all of our programming will still appear where it is today, as far as I know. Google Podcasts just shut down, so we'll move that over to YouTube Podcasts, because that's where people go for podcasts. If Spotify continues to offer their offerings as they do now, we'll still be there. But in general, cafegenius.org should be the place you go to find all of our episodes and more if you're interested in the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem of the greater Vegas area and maybe beyond. Who knows? So on that note, I will leave you. Thank you so much for listening, as always. Until next time. And if you want to be a guest, reach out. media@cafegenius.org. Let's talk.